hand up earlier.
Jenny.
Good.
Aisha.
1 in 6 New Zealanders cannot access general practice care because of cost. What will you do to bring that number down?
Look, I think it's a good question, and there's a significant investment into primary care in this budget, including both workforce and Health New Zealand is also allocating a significant uplift to primary care to support greater access. There's a number, and those negotiations through the PSAP negotiations with the PHOs is currently underway, and that will, I think, more clearly answer your question once those are concluded. But ultimately, those are confidential negotiations which are currently underway. In terms of access, I agree. Access to primary care is incredibly important, and that's where the increased investment is focused, so that we can ensure that our primary care providers are financially sustainable, but they're also supported around workforce. And that's where all of those initiatives in the budget are focused, whether it's the 100 overseas doctor training positions, the nurse practitioner training positions, the increased funding for nurses who start their careers in primary care. Those are all about making sure that we're focusing on increasing the resourcing available to primary care, but also a real focus on workforce, which is critically important in primary care.
Can you commit to the cost of seeing a doctor coming down?
Look, those negotiations are underway through the PSAP negotiations, and obviously they're confidential. My focus is on making sure that primary care is financially sustainable, so that it is able to deliver more for patients and is able to take pressure off the hospital system. And so those negotiations are currently being worked through. But as you know, there's also a number of areas where the government invests to target investment against those who do need support to access primary care, whether that's the under 14s being able to be seen for free. It's the very low cost access scheme. There's the community services card. There's a range of initiatives the government continues to support to ensure that we can target investment for primary care to those who do need it the most.
In January, Health New Zealand put a moratorium on new primary health organisations until policy decisions on PHOs were taken. But 5 months later, a new PHO was allowed. Why?
Well, Health New Zealand lifted that moratorium, as my understanding, and allowed and is allowing applications to come forward. Look, there is continuing work around PHOs, and it's the Ministry of Health is leading that work and providing that advice to me as the Minister of Health. But at the same time, look, there's a process that people want to go through to apply, and that process is open for people who wish to put forward those applications.
The moratorium was put in place because that policy work was underway by your government. And then it appears that it's still continuing, and yet one PHO is allowed to be approved. Did that PHO receive special treatment?
Look, my understanding, the advice I received is that there was a moratorium. That moratorium was lifted. Ultimately, there is policy advice. I think that policy advice will come. Decisions will be made in due course, and in the meantime, applications are able to be brought forward.
We've got a couple of supplementaries, please.
One here, and then I'll go to Hamish.
2, if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Chair.
Well, you've had 3. I'll go to Hamish after this one.
Will this PHO that is closely linked to a corporation be not for profit, and how will it be accountable to the community?
Well, my understanding is all primary health organisations are required to be charitable trusts.
Hamish.
You mean?
Well, that's interesting to find out that all PHOs must be charitable trusts. Now, so I've just gone on here to look at what is a PHO, and that is a group of health providers in a geographical area providing services. In an old scheme of it, in the case of Wellington City, it would be known as Capital and Coast DHB. That would be considered as one PHO, which covers from the right up from the Waikanae right down to Wellington. And I do know there was a different PHO for the Hutt Valley. Just to put some context out there.
There were a lot of problems with the way how you answered that question, especially when I just opened up the data, and I know Detective Rogers, it's very boring. I'm a very boring person, believe it or not. But yeah, he didn't propose anything really to help out communities that don't have, that are not economically wealthy. He didn't, such as like your rural communities and stuff like that. I found it really interesting that the majority of people that struggled to go see a doctor was adults, and he didn't really address adults. He looked at children, which is a much lower number. 1 in 5 children reported that time taken to get an appointment is too long, whereas you compare that to 1 in 4 adults, and most of the people making that complaint are women and disabled people. He didn't even touch that, which I mean is good. He shouldn't be touching disabled people or women, full stop. But hey, he didn't even bring that up. It's like, oh, this is what we're going to do to resolve this problem. No, he didn't bring it up. He's just like, here's his community services card. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
The
that's the
approach
best way
is
to describe it.
Yeah, it's a little bit RSB in its approach, trying to, approach it as equality, I guess, rather than focusing on equity, trying to account for the disparities in some of those areas, especially when it comes to what would you say, women and children? Was there skew towards children?
Yeah, that mostly, according to the data, it was wait time for so was most likely to be reported by women aged 25 to 54 years, Pacific peoples, disabled peoples, and those living in the most deprived neighborhoods. So those are the people that seem to have the most trouble being able to go see a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think about Gary's comment?
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, it does feel like that. It does feel that literally, was it Sam Uffendalis with the fire extinguisher over Aisha Veril's fiery questions, trying to keep putting them out.
Well, with all the cuts to ACC, they couldn't afford Simeon Brown going to the hospital, can they? Burn treatment.
No. But maybe we need an artist rendition of Sam Uffendale with the fire extinguisher while, with Aisha grilling Simeon.
I'll have to think about that one.
Gary speaking with his years of wisdom.
Oh, yes.